Alright, so Wuthering Waves released a brand new hologram, and this time it's Inferno Rider. In my opinion, fighting this hologram is pretty obnoxious because Inferno Rider sends projectiles towards you and creates hazards on the floor that you have to dodge or play around, which can be annoying. If I had to estimate how many times I had to retry to beat this boss, it would probably be as many times as I've retried fighting Memphis. Onto the guide. Inferno Rider has two phases, the bike phase and when Inferno Rider is out of the bike. The whole fight is pretty much the same as if you were to fight Inferno Rider regularly with added moves and hazards. Before we get into the movesets, let's address these hazards. There are two different types of hazards, Molten Fire and Scorched Earth. These are Inferno Rider's abilities that are used in Elusive Realm and if you look inside the Wuthering Waves wiki. Molten Fire is the explosion that Inferno Rider does when each attack ends. You'll know Molten Fire will explode when the outer circle is fully formed. Scorched Earth is the fire pit right after Molten Fire's explosion. Scorched Earth explodes 3 times in fixed intervals and you'll know when it explodes when the inner circle connects to the outer circle. I will address Scorched Earth as fire pits so I don't have to keep repeating Scorched Earths all the time. In difficulties 1, 2, 3, Inferno Rider has very little Molten Fire explosions to certain attacks, and also has altered attacks moves specifically to these 3 difficulties. I am not sure why these movesets are specific to difficulties 1, 2, and 3, but either way you should be breezing through these 3 difficulties. In difficulty 4 to 5, Inferno Rider will cast Molten Fire at the end of most attacks, but does not leave fire pits on the ground. In the last difficulty, Inferno Rider will cast Molten Fire by throwing meteors towards you and leave fire pits right after. During the second phase, the meteors will turn into motorcycle projectiles, but it's still the same mechanics. It is weird that the attacks are not visually consistent with the other difficulties, but I guess that is how Kuro wanted it. We will be focusing on difficulty 6 since it's the last difficulty and the most brutal, so if you're going into this fight for the first time, I will start addressing Molten Fire as meteors or projectiles from here on out, since visually that is what they are. One thing to note is that even when the meteor falls down and creates a fire pit, there is still a very short lingering hitbox if you don't dodge the initial meteor impact, so if you attack too quickly, you will get hit regardless if you are not in the pit. One thing I recommend, which is pretty obvious, is by moving away from the fire pits. You're gonna lose a bit of time, but you should have time to beat Inferno Rider. Going forward, that is pretty much for the projectile slash floor hazards. There really isn't much to say about the projectiles. You just have to be reactive and kind of watch when they'll hit the ground or hit you. Like I mentioned before, Inferno Rider still inherits the same moves as the overworld Inferno Rider. I'll mention which moves cause meteors to fall down and the placements of the floor hazards. In case you are a newer player playing Wuthering Waves and are doing holograms at early levels like 60 or 70, I'm only going to address the specific moves that cause Molten Fire in the first 3 difficulties. I won't go too much into depth into this as I'm trying to focus on the last difficulty, so I'll try to speedrun this part of the guide. You can't skip this section of the video as this is only for the first 3 difficulties. When Inferno Rider lifts the front part of the bike and holds the weapon like this, Inferno Rider will stab the ground. There is a hitbox of when Inferno Rider hits the ground, so dodge that, but also the Molten Fire at the end of the attack. There is another variation where Inferno Rider will cast 3 Molten Fires instead, so you'll just be dodging 3 instead of 1 Molten Fire. The next attack is when Inferno Rider lifts the backside of the bike and slams down. When the light fades in and out, that is when you should dodge, as the bike will come down as a hitbox. Inferno Rider will then twirl his weapon and stab the ground with the weapon, and a Molten Fire will be casted at your location. You will need to dodge this. In the second phase of Inferno Rider, if Inferno Rider jumps back, he will send a motorcycle projectile towards you. You need to dodge this or move away. If Inferno Rider crouches down, a motorcycle projectile will come towards you, so you will need to dodge away. Inferno Rider will jump in the air while doing a slash and shoot a beam projectile towards you in a quick succession, so be prepared to dodge this projectile. Inferno Rider will get on his bike and do a heat wave. To find the timing, it is when Inferno Rider gets on the bike, and then Inferno Rider will ride into a circle which has active hitboxes, so you will need to dodge this. Finally, Inferno Rider will discard the bike, so you will need to dodge that if you are too close to Inferno Rider. If Inferno Rider hits hits the end of the weapon onto the ground, a projectile will be sent towards you, so you will need to dodge this. Inferno Rider has a parryable attack and it chains into 3 different types of combinations if you miss this specific parry. I do explain this later in the video which attack goes to which chain, so that is later. For this specific chain, if Inferno Rider holds the weapon behind him, he will do another parryable attack, but if you end up missing this, he will swing from the right side and do a sliding attack right after. To find the timing, you will hear a audio cue, and that is when you should dodge. Right after the sliding attack, Inferno Rider will send a projectile towards you, so dodge this. I think this concludes all the attacks that have molten fire in the first 3 difficulties. Most of the attacks are the same for all difficulties. I figured if newer players are struggling in the earlier difficulties, I thought that I should probably mention it anyways early in this video, but let's get right back to the guide. Whenever Inferno Rider raises the motorcycle backwards to do a slam, there are 2 different attacks Rider can do. Slam down from the backside of the motorcycle and do a follow-up wide slash. You will know Inferno Rider will follow up with a slash if his arm is still raised in front of him. Inferno Rider will swing when his weapon glows and a light appears at the blade. That is when Inferno Rider will swing. The other attack, Inferno Rider will just slam his bike and will send a meteor your way, which you should be able to react and dodge. The meteor will be casted towards your character and create a fire pit below your character. Out of both attacks, the attack with the summoned meteor is easier to react to, while the other attack where Inferno Rider swings a follow-up attack can be unexpected if you're not familiar with Inferno Rider's attacks. When Inferno Rider lifts the front part of the motorcycle and lifts his weapon, Inferno Rider can do 2 attacks. Inferno Rider can do a vertical slash or a wide horizontal slash right after. You can tell which one by the way Inferno Rider holds the weapon and how he is facing. For his vertical slash, Inferno Rider will position the arm parallel to his head while holding the weapon above the head. You'll see a front view of Inferno Rider and he'll do a light charge up before he does the vertical slash. To find the timing, the weapon will glow and a light will fade in and out before he slashes. After the slash, Inferno Rider will send a meteor behind him and to the right of him, so you don't have to worry about dodging these projectiles. For the body, where Inferno Rider does a wide slash instead, Inferno Rider twists his body and his arm is sort of covering the side of his head holding the weapon above, so it looks like the slash is going diagonal and wide. He will then follow up with a vertical slash, and this attack is homing, so if you dodge incorrectly or miss the timing, you will end up getting hit. This attack won't summon any meteors, so it's a pretty easy combo attack to dodge. Inferno Rider can lift the front part of his motorcycle and then slam his bike down. This will follow up with a meteor coming down. When the motorcycle starts to glow, you will see a light in the front wheel. When the light starts to fade, you should prepare to dodge, as that is when the animation of the motorcycle will start. The meteor will then come down at your location, but you'll know when to dodge when the circle fully appears and stops expanding. Inferno Rider has another variation of when he lifts the front part of the motorcycle, but this time, Inferno Rider is getting ready to stab the ground. You can get damaged by this initial attack, and it can follow up with 2 types of attacks. 1, Inferno Rider can send 3 meteors at the player's location, or 2, he sends 1 meteor at the player that doesn't create a fire pit. However, the other 2 meteors create fire pits on each side of Inferno Rider. There is no indication of which one Inferno Rider is going to do, so you have to react on which meteor combination it is. When Inferno Rider sends the 3 projectiles towards you, it is possible to dodge all 3 meteors and do a dodge attack in between, but do it accordingly based on your character's dodge attack and iframes. Alright, the final attack, and probably the only attack that killed me the most when fighting Inferno Rider, is when he does a wheelie. This attack is notorious because it is unexpected. A good tip is to never hug Inferno Rider too much, because this attack has a whole hitbox around him, so it is possible to die mid-air. I would say this attack you have to intuitively feel that the attack is coming. If you find that Inferno Rider suddenly stops attacking and just cruise around, there is a good chance he will do a wheelie. There is a method to tell if Inferno Rider is going to do a wheelie, however it's not completely foolproof, so you'll still have to use your gut feeling. Inferno Rider will do a wheelie at around 30 seconds or around 4 minutes and 30 seconds of fight time, so in a way it's a fixed attack. However, after the first wheelie, it can vary to around 30 seconds to 1 minute, but it's most commonly around the 30-second mark or 50 seconds to 1 minute mark. This isn't a guaranteed method, but you can make an inference that Inferno Rider will do a wheelie attack. I would say after fighting Inferno Rider many times, this attack will be the easiest to see coming, so you shouldn't be getting hit by this attack unless you are being greedy. When Inferno Rider slams the motorcycle down, you will need to dodge this attack, and he will send a meteor down to your location, so make sure to dodge that too. Okay, so if you made it this far, you are halfway done to Inferno Rider's attack. Not a whole lot of attacks, but there are just a ton of hazards to avoid. However, that is not the end of those hazards. I would like to point out that it's highly recommended that you don't double dash without dodging anything on the second dash, because you will have a cooldown on dashing, which might prevent you from dodging continuous attacks. Moving on to Inferno Rider's second phase. This is when you deplete a whole life bar and Inferno Rider discards his bike by kicking it towards you, and yes, this does damage you, so make sure you dodge. If at any time you see Inferno Rider jump high in the air, Inferno Rider will do a plunge attack. You should be able to dodge this attack, however, right after the plunge, Inferno Rider will send a motorcycle towards you as a projectile. There is no indication on when the plunge attack will land, so you will have to judge when to dodge. With the projectile, you should be able to see it coming towards you as it always spawns behind Inferno Rider. Timing might be rough, or else just completely move away from the area. For this next attack, Inferno Rider will dodge backwards and summon 2 projectiles towards you. However, these projectiles won't create fire pits. The first projectile will show an indication on when it will hit the ground. However, the second projectile won't show a circle, so you will have to dodge whenever the projectile gets close to you. One of Inferno Rider's most common moves, and is parryable, is when he starts to swing slowly upwards. You need to dodge this attack first, then the first circle will appear when Inferno Rider swings from his left side. I suggest you parry this because it's the easiest move that you parry, and it's free vibration strength deducted from his bar. If you don't parry this move, which I don't see why you don't take the opportunity, Inferno Rider follows up with 3 moves. From the easiest, Inferno Rider will jump backwards, in which he will glow mid-jump, then prepare a thrust attack towards you. This is pretty easy to dodge, but you have to watch out for the projectiles he will send towards you that will spawn a fire pit. His second combination is when he holds his position, crouched, and holding his weapon with both hands. You'll know if he does this attack when you hear this audio cue and fire visuals on the blade of the weapon. Inferno Rider will then jump up in the air and do a helmbreaker, or in other words, a jump slash. You also have to watch out for the projectile that Inferno Rider will send, as that projectile also creates a fire pit. Moving on to the last combination, which you can redeem yourself if you did not parry the first time. Inferno Rider will get into a position where he is in a stance holding his weapon like a glaive, and this next attack is a parryable attack. Failing to parry this attack, he will swing his weapon around himself and prepare his next attack, where he will slide attack towards you in a quick succession. You should be able to react to this attack, as Inferno Rider does give you some time to process. Again, this attack will summon a projectile towards you and create a fire pit on impact. Probably one of Inferno Rider's most basic attacks is when his weapon is on his left side and does an upward swing like the previous. This is also parryable and does not have any follow-up attacks right after. Very short and sweet. This also spawns a projectile, so don't go thinking there aren't any projectile flying towards you. Probably one of Inferno Rider's attacks that will catch you off guard is when he jumps up, but not too high, and shoots 3 projectiles towards you. They don't spawn any fire pits, but at the end of the attack animation, Inferno Rider will send 2 motorcycle projectiles, so make sure to dodge these projectiles. If Inferno Rider hits the bottom of the weapon onto the ground like a staff, this just means Inferno Rider will send 2 projectiles to your location. There isn't much to this attack but to dodge the 2 projectiles. Another surprise attack from Inferno Rider is when he jumps towards you and takes a swing from his left side. There isn't much indication to when Inferno Rider will do this attack, so you pretty much have to be reactive to this attack. Inferno Rider will send a projectile right after this attack. Inferno Rider's last attack, which is a series of attacks that you have to dodge. It's fast in the beginning, but it slows down enough for you to react. When Inferno Rider kneels to the ground, he is preparing to attack very shortly. Inferno Rider will jump towards you and do a very wide slash from his left side. When Inferno Rider lands, a very quick slash from his right side will be an upward slash, then a horizontal slash from his left side. Inferno Rider will then twirl his weapon, and an indication of when the attack will start is when the weapon glows and he will swing and jump in the air. Here, you will need to get ready to dodge a blade projectile while he is in the air. Again, like the previous attack, the weapon will glow and Inferno Rider will shoot a projectile towards you. Inferno Rider will summon his motorcycle and get on it, which will send a heat wave towards you. This will only happen when Inferno Rider is on the bike, so be careful of dodging too early or panic dodging twice. From here, Inferno Rider will drift towards you and has a hitbox, so you will need to dodge this attack. The attack stops when Inferno Rider discards the motorcycle, but make sure to dodge when Inferno Rider discards the bike or you will get hit. That is the end of that whole combination, so here's a recap. Jump slash, upward slash, horizontal slash, rising slash, blade beam, heat wave, drift attack, motorcycle discard. You can input some dodge attacks in between dodges as shown, so you're not just dodging all the time. If you successfully dodge this whole string of attacks, you can pretty much beat this hologram. We have reached the end of Inferno Rider hologram guide. Hopefully this is useful for those who are currently struggling to beat the higher difficulties or have trouble learning the fight overall. If you do like this guide, give it a like and sub for more future content like this. Thanks.